Have you ever felt like the world is stacked against you? Like no matter how hard you try, success always seems just out of reach? Meet Amanda Turner, an ordinary woman who rose from a life of struggle to take on the most powerful corporations in the city. Her story is a testament to the power of kindness, resilience, and knowing your worth when no one else does. But what happens when a simple act of kindness changes everything? When the right opportunity knocks and you're faced with a choice that could change your life forever? Before we dive into Amanda's incredible journey, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. If you're inspired by stories of perseverance and triumph, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss tomorrow's story that's sure to motivate and uplift you. Amanda Turner had spent years working tirelessly as a waitress at a small diner tucked away in the heart of a bustling New York neighborhood. Every day, she juggled double shifts, earning just enough to scrape by. Her exhaustion was visible, but it never dulled the warmth in her heart. She'd seen the world's darker side, but she never allowed it to steal her kindness. It was late one rainy evening, past 11 p.m. when Amanda was wiping down the counter after a long shift. Her dark brown skin glistened with sweat, the smell of buttered toast and coffee lingering in the air. She noticed a small figure sitting outside by the diner's neon sign, shivering in the cold. It was a boy, no older than 12, sitting alone in a worn-out wheelchair. His damp hair clung to his forehead, and he was wrapped in a thin, frayed blanket that couldn't protect him from the chill. Without hesitation, Amanda grabbed her apron and rushed to the door. She called out gently, "Hey, sweetie, what are you doing out here alone?" The boy's hesitant gaze met hers, his voice barely audible over the rain, "I'm waiting for my dad." A surge of concern filled Amanda as she knelt beside him. This wasn't right, he couldn't stay out here alone. Amanda's heart sank as she studied the boy in front of her. His trembling hands clutched the blanket tighter around his shoulders, his small frame dwarfed by the oversized wheelchair. It was clear he wasn't just cold, he was scared. His pale blue eyes darted nervously from the street to Amanda's face, unsure of whether to trust her or not. "You can't stay out here in this weather," Amanda said softly, her voice steady but warm. "Come inside with me. It's much warmer inside, and I have something special for you." She smiled, hoping to ease his fears, and stretched out her hand, offering him the reassurance he needed. After a brief pause, the boy slowly nodded, allowing her to take hold of his wheelchair and guide him into the diner. The warmth hit them both immediately as they stepped through the door. The comforting aroma of fresh bread and rich coffee wrapped around them like a blanket, providing a sharp contrast to the harsh winds outside. Amanda wheeled him to a booth by the radiator, where she quickly grabbed a fresh towel and draped it over his shoulders. The soft hum of the diner's usual late-night buzz filled the air as the boy sighed in relief. Amanda crouched down beside him, meeting his gaze. "I'm Amanda," she said, her smile bright but gentle. "What's your name, sweetheart?" The boy sniffled, wiping his nose on the sleeve of his coat. He hesitated, his fingers curling around the edge of the blanket, before muttering quietly, "Lucas." "Lucas," Amanda repeated with a nod, her voice warm and encouraging. "That's a strong name. Are you hungry?" she asked, not waiting for a response. She was already moving toward the kitchen, her motions efficient yet comforting, as she pulled out a loaf of fresh sourdough bread and began slicing it. Minutes later, she returned with a steaming plate, placing it gently in front of Lucas. A perfectly grilled cheese sandwich, golden and crisp, with a bowl of tomato soup on the side, Amanda's signature comfort meal. It was the same one her grandmother used to make when the world felt heavy, when the nights were long and uncertain. "Here you go," she said softly, tucking a napkin into his lap. "This one's on me." Lucas looked at the plate in front of him, his eyes wide with awe. Tentatively, he took his first bite, and the cheese stretched long and gooey between the bread. His face lit up, and for the first time that night, Amanda saw a spark of joy in his eyes. "This is the best thing I've ever had," he whispered, his voice full of wonder. Amanda chuckled, watching him devour the sandwich with relish. "Good food makes everything better," she said lightly, though a deep ache settled in her chest. Seeing someone so young, so small, already burdened with the weight of the world, she wished things were different for him. She wished he didn't have to face the harshness of life at such a young age. What Amanda didn't know was that across the street, in a sleek black SUV parked under the shadow of the buildings, a pair of sharp gray eyes were watching her every move. The man sitting in the vehicle, Richard Westbrook, CEO of Westbrook Technologies, was Lucas's father. His cold gaze remained fixed on the scene unfolding in front of him. Richard had been delayed by an urgent call with his business partners in Europe, and he'd asked Lucas to wait by the diner for just a few minutes. He hadn't expected to see his son being taken care of by a stranger, a woman who had no idea who he was, but who had offered him food without question, without any hidden agenda. The sight of her kindness stirred something inside him, something he hadn't felt in years. He reached for his phone, dialing his assistant with quick, controlled motions. "Nora," he said as soon as she answered, "I need you to get to Lexington Diner. No suits, no heels. I need you there in 20 minutes. Find out everything you can about the woman who just fed my son." As Amanda watched Lucas eat, her heart warmed a little. It wasn't every day that someone like him, someone so young, received a moment of peace, a break from the hardships they carried. Her mind wandered briefly to her own childhood, to the times when simple acts of kindness felt like the only thing that kept the world from swallowing her whole. But she couldn't linger too long in the past. She had a job to do, and right now, her priority was making sure Lucas was safe and well-fed. The rain continued to pour outside, the sound of it tapping against the windows steady and relentless. She wiped a bit of tomato soup from Lucas's chin, her actions gentle, almost motherly. His fingers had warmed up, no longer trembling, and his face had lost the wary, guarded look it had held when he first arrived. Now, there was only quiet contentment as he focused on his meal, completely unaware of the man across the street watching him. Then, as if on cue, the door to the diner swung open. A chill swept in with the gust of wind, and Amanda glanced up to see a woman standing in the doorway. She was dressed in casual clothes, jeans and a hoodie, but there was something about her that set her apart from the usual diner patrons. Her blonde hair was tucked beneath a faded cap, but it was her demeanor that immediately caught Amanda's attention. The way she carried herself, sharp, calculating, with a sense of purpose. Amanda froze, her instincts immediately telling her that this woman wasn't just here for a cup of coffee. She watched closely as the woman's gaze locked onto Lucas. Her expression softened, but there was something too practiced in her smile, something that made Amanda uneasy. "Hey, champ," the woman said, crouching beside Lucas, her tone light but oddly rehearsed. "Time to go." Lucas frowned, wiping his mouth with the napkin Amanda had given him. "But I haven't finished my milk yet." The woman's smile didn't falter, though Amanda noticed the faintest tension in her posture. "You can take it with you," she said, her words flowing too smoothly. "Your ride's waiting." Amanda's gut clenched. Something was off. There was a subtle urgency in the woman's tone, a pushiness that didn't belong in a simple diner. Her eyes flicked to Lucas, who looked uncertain, torn between finishing his meal and the woman's insistence. Amanda took a deep breath, her protective instincts flaring up. She stepped forward, folding her arms across her chest as she studied the woman. "You know him?" she asked, her voice steady but sharp. The woman hesitated, just for a moment, before answering with a forced smile. "Yeah, I'm his aunt." Amanda didn't believe it. She could see the hesitation in the woman's eyes, the slight shift in her posture, the subtle flicker of discomfort that had appeared when she'd spoken. Amanda wasn't the type to let things slide. She turned to Lucas, crouching down to meet his eyes. "Is that true, sweetheart?" she asked softly, her voice full of care. Lucas hesitated, a slight pause too long before he replied, I think so." Amanda's heart twisted as she caught the uncertainty in his eyes. He was scared. She could see it now. Her gut told her to press further, to demand more answers, but she knew the risks. She had been in situations before, where being too assertive could draw unwanted attention. Being a black woman, especially one with no money or power, could make her the target of judgment and even hostility if she pushed too hard. Still, she wasn't about to let the boy leave empty-handed. "Hang on," she said, walking to the counter. She grabbed a chocolate chip cookie, wrapped it in wax paper, and returned to Lucas. "For the road," she said, slipping it into his hand. "Take care of yourself, okay?" Lucas's eyes brightened for a moment as he grasped the cookie, his fingers warm now, no longer trembling. "Thanks, Amanda. You're the best." She gave him a small smile, though her heart felt heavy. As she watched the woman, whom she now suspected wasn't truly his aunt, will Lucas toward the door, a deep unease settled over her. The quiet tension between them was palpable, and just before stepping outside, the woman turned, glancing back at Amanda. Amanda felt it, the warning. It wasn't just a look. It was a silent message. Across the street, Richard Westbrook's black SUV was parked, its headlights briefly flashing as the woman and Lucas approached. He had been watching the entire exchange, his sharp gaze locked onto the scene. When the door to the diner swung open again, he stepped out of the car. The broad figure of the billionaire loomed, framed by the glow of the diner's neon lights. Richard's eyes followed the woman, Nora, as she helped Lucas into the car. His mind raced. Nora had done her job, but there was something more. He had seen Amanda's actions from across the street. Something about her had made him pause, and he wasn't the type to be swayed by kindness, yet here he was, considering the implications of her small act. He made a mental note to himself. There was more to this woman than met the eye. The following day, Amanda couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Her shift had ended, and she was walking home through the same rain-soaked streets, but her thoughts kept drifting back to Lucas. The hesitation in his eyes, the forced politeness of the woman who claimed to be his aunt, everything about that encounter felt off. Despite her gut telling her to let it go, she couldn't. There was something about Lucas, something about his fragile state, that haunted her. She made her way up the narrow staircase of her apartment building, the dim light in the hall flickering as she passed. Her apartment was small, cramped, but it was hers. She shut the door behind her, leaning against it for a moment. The chill from the rain still hadn't left her bones. She sighed, rubbing her face in frustration, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling that gnawed at her. It was then that the knock on the door came. Amanda stiffened. No one ever visited her at this hour. She peered through the peephole, her breath catching in her throat as she saw the man standing outside. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a sharp, cold demeanor that made him stand out in the dim hallway. He was dressed in a dark coat that looked expensive enough to be her entire monthly rent, and his eyes were a piercing gray. "Who is it?" Amanda called, her grip tightening around the door handle. "Richard Westbrook," the man's voice came, deep and controlled. "I need to speak with you." Amanda's heart skipped. She had no idea who this man was, but the name, Westbrook, rang a bell. Her mind raced, trying to place it, but nothing came to her. She didn't open the door right away. She couldn't. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice cautious but firm. She wasn't about to let some stranger in, no matter how expensive his coat looked. There was a brief silence on the other side of the door before Richard spoke again, his tone slightly softer. "I need to talk to you about my son. Lucas." The mention of Lucas made Amanda's stomach lurch. She didn't open the door immediately, but the name alone was enough to make her pulse race. This man, Richard Westbrook, was Lucas's father. The pieces fell into place, and Amanda's gut told her this wasn't going to be a casual conversation. She unlatched the door slowly, peering out to get a better look at him. Her gaze locked with his, and she immediately saw the cold calculation in his eyes. There was something about him that made her feel like she was being sized up, measured for something she wasn't sure she understood. "I don't know you," Amanda said flatly, keeping her hand on the door. "Why are you here?" Richard's expression remained unchanged. "I'm here because I believe you owe me something." Amanda's eyebrows furrowed in confusion. "Owe you something?" "I don't know you, Mr. Westbrook." His gray eyes didn't waver. Not me. My son. You fed him yesterday. You gave him food without asking for anything in return. I don't believe in charity, but I do believe in paying debts. Amanda felt a pang of disbelief. This wasn't how things were supposed to work. She had given Lucas food because it was the right thing to do, not because she expected anything in return. But she held her ground, not willing to be intimidated by this powerful man standing in front of her. "What are you offering?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tension rising inside her. Richard reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. A job offer. Something far better than charity. 6 figures, benefits, the works. You can come work for me at Westbrook Technologies. Amanda stared at the envelope, its weight far more symbolic than its contents. 6 figures. The offer was enticing, but it felt wrong, like a baited trap. She wasn't a charity case, and she wasn't going to be bought with money. "You think that's what I need?" she asked, her voice sharp. "You think throwing money at me makes it all okay?" Richard didn't flinch. "No. I think you're someone who could do something far more valuable for me. You have a skill with people. You know how to make them feel seen. That's rare." Amanda swallowed hard, looking at the envelope again. The money, the job, it all felt too easy. Too clean. But a part of her couldn't ignore the temptation. 6 figures would solve so many problems. No more late bills, no more scraping by. But at what cost? "You don't even know me," Amanda said, her voice softer now, the weight of his offer settling heavily in her chest. "Why me?" Richard met her gaze, his expression unreadable. "I know enough. I know you treated my son like a human being, not an inconvenience. That's rare." For a moment, Amanda felt a shift in her chest. The walls she had built to protect herself from people like him, people with too much power and too many resources, wavered. She didn't trust him. She didn't trust anyone like him. But the offer, it was tempting. "I'll think about it," she said finally, her voice low. Richard nodded once, acknowledging her decision. "Do that. I'll expect an answer soon." As he turned and left, Amanda stood there for a long time, staring at the door. The weight of the envelope in her hands felt like it could crush her. She wasn't sure what to think, but she knew one thing for certain: her life was about to change, whether she was ready for it or not. The next morning, Amanda sat at her small kitchen table, the envelope still in front of her. She hadn't touched it yet, but its presence loomed over her. 6 figures. A life-changing sum of money. It could solve everything: her mounting bills, the rent that was always just barely covered, the constant stress of scraping by. But she wasn't the type of person to make decisions quickly. She had worked too hard to get to this point in her life, and every opportunity felt like it came with strings attached. The more she thought about Richard Westbrook's offer, the more unsettled she became. There was something off about him, something distant and calculating. He didn't seem like the kind of person who offered help without expecting something in return. Still, a part of her couldn't ignore the potential. This could be her chance to break free from the endless cycle of working low-paying jobs and barely getting by. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the opportunity to prove herself, to step into a world that had always felt out of reach. That afternoon, Amanda dressed in her best clothes, something that had cost her all of 2 months' worth of tips. She was determined to go to Westbrook Technologies, to meet with Richard face-to-face, and to make her decision. As she stood in front of the full-length mirror in her apartment, she practiced the words in her head: "I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing this for myself." The office building towered over her when she arrived. It was sleek and modern, all glass and steel. The contrast between her humble attire and the polished environment around her was jarring. She took a deep breath before stepping inside, her heels clicking against the marble floors as she made her way to the elevator. As the doors closed behind her, she felt the weight of everything: her past, her struggles, and the decision she was about to make. Richard's office was exactly what she had imagined: high-end, minimalist, with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. It felt cold, sterile, like a place where decisions were made not with emotion but with cold, hard logic. Richard sat behind a pristine desk, a sleek black tablet in front of him. He didn't look up when she entered, just gestured to the chair across from him. "You're late," he said, his voice steady, betraying no hint of emotion. Amanda raised an eyebrow. "By 2 minutes. It's hardly a crime." Richard's lips curled into a faint smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Time is money," he replied. "It's a luxury I don't have much of." Amanda took a seat, leaning back in the chair, trying to mask her nerves. The space between them was vast, the silence in the room heavy. She had come here for more than just a job offer. She was here to see if this opportunity could really change her life, or if it would just trap her in another cycle of manipulation and exploitation. Richard finally looked up, his gray eyes sharp as ever. "Do you think you're ready for this? Ready to step into the world I live in?" Amanda met his gaze, steady and unflinching. "I'm ready for something better," she said. "I don't know if I'm ready for your world, but I know I'm tired of mine." Richard nodded slowly, seemingly impressed by her response. "Fair enough. But let me be clear. This isn't charity. I'm offering you a role because I believe you have something rare, an understanding of people. You're good with them. That's what I need." Amanda's heart pounded in her chest, but she kept her composure. "And what exactly would I be doing for you?" "Handling negotiations, public relations, the human element of the business. You'll be dealing with our clients, our partners. You'll be my right hand." Richard's voice was calm, almost indifferent, as if he were simply outlining the facts. Amanda took a moment to process everything. The idea of being part of something bigger than herself, of working for a powerful man like Richard Westbrook, was overwhelming. But she had been in enough situations to know when to seize an opportunity. This wasn't just about her, it was about proving to herself that she was more than the sum of her circumstances. "I'll do it," Amanda said, surprising herself with the decisiveness in her voice. "I'll take the job." Richard's lips twitched, a hint of approval flashing in his eyes. "Good. I knew you'd make the right choice." As Amanda stood to leave, she felt a strange sense of empowerment. She had taken control of her future, despite the shadows of doubt lingering in her mind. As she walked out of the building, the weight of the envelope that had once seemed so heavy now felt lighter, as if the decision had freed her in ways she hadn't expected. Her life was about to change, she knew that. The only question now was how far she was willing to go. The first day at Westbrook Technologies felt like stepping into a world that Amanda had only ever seen on TV. The sleek glass building, the polished floors, the perfectly tailored suits, everything felt distant, foreign, and intimidating. But Amanda wasn't the type to shy away from a challenge. She had fought tooth and nail to get this far, and she wasn't about to let a little discomfort stop her now. As she walked into the lobby, every head turned. The whispers followed her. How could someone like her possibly belong in this world? She was the outsider, the unpolished, the one who didn't fit. But Amanda was used to being underestimated. Her entire life had been a series of people looking at her and deciding she wasn't good enough, only for her to prove them wrong time and time again. She met with Richard, who barely gave her a second glance, as usual. The meetings were always cold, transactional. He wasn't there to be her mentor, he was there to use her skills, to make sure the company ran as efficiently as possible. Still, Amanda found herself learning quickly, picking up on the dynamics of the office, watching how people interacted, how power played out in the quiet moments between words. One thing became clear early on: Richard's trust in her was shaky. He wanted results, but he didn't believe in second chances. He didn't care about feelings or the small things that made people human. But Amanda wasn't like him. She didn't see people as tools to be used and discarded. She saw them as equals, as people who deserved to be treated with respect, no matter their status. At first, it was hard to navigate the world of corporate power plays. Amanda felt the weight of her background every time she walked into a meeting. The sharp stares, the dismissive glances, they were all reminders that she was different, that she didn't belong. But slowly, things began to shift. It started with the small victories. One day, during a negotiation with a major client, Amanda noticed a subtle shift in the room. The client, a seasoned businessman with years of experience, was dismissing Richard's proposals with ease. But when Amanda spoke up, her voice calm but firm, her insights cutting to the heart of the issue, the client's demeanor changed. Richard didn't speak for the rest of the meeting, allowing Amanda to handle it. By the end of the conversation, they had a deal. It wasn't a huge win in the grand scheme of things, but it was enough to make her believe in her ability. For the first time since she had walked into Westbrook, Amanda felt a spark of hope. She wasn't just here to serve Richard's needs, she was here to make a difference. The other executives, once dismissive, began to take notice. They started respecting her judgment, seeking her opinion on matters they had once dismissed as unimportant. Amanda was no longer just a cog in the machine, she was an integral part of it, someone whose voice had weight. But it wasn't just the business side of things that Amanda was learning to navigate, it was the people. Richard's cold, calculating nature hadn't prepared him for someone like her. He had built his empire on efficiency and control, on using people to his advantage. But Amanda was different. She didn't see her role as one of power and manipulation. She saw it as an opportunity to bring humanity back to a world that often forgot what it meant to care for others. As weeks went by, Amanda became more confident. She found herself standing up for what she believed in, even when it meant challenging Richard. She wasn't afraid of making him uncomfortable. In fact, it felt good to show him that there was more to life than profit margins and bottom lines. Richard had his own way of running things, but Amanda had learned how to stand her ground. She understood that being successful didn't mean abandoning your values. It meant finding a way to bring both your personal integrity and your professional abilities into balance. Her growth wasn't just about her career, it was about realizing her own worth. For so long, Amanda had been told she was nothing, that she didn't belong. But now, she knew the truth, she was capable of greatness, and no one could take that away from her. 2 months had passed since Amanda had stepped into the world of Westbrook Technologies, and it felt like a lifetime. The woman who had walked into that gleaming glass tower, uncertain and full of doubts, was no longer the same person. She had carved a space for herself in this world, a world that had once seemed completely out of reach. Amanda now moved through the office with the confidence of someone who belonged, someone who had earned her place. The executives, once cold and dismissive, now sought her advice. Richard had stopped underestimating her. She had proven herself in ways he hadn't expected, handling high-stakes negotiations and solving problems with a deft touch that left even the most seasoned players in awe. She was no longer just his assistant, she was a partner, a valued member of the team. But the real change, the one that made her feel like she had truly arrived, came when Richard handed her a new project. It wasn't just another task, it was the kind of responsibility that would make or break careers. Richard, in his typically cold way, simply slid a thick file across the desk. "This is on you, Amanda," he said, his voice calm, but with a rare hint of respect. "I need you to handle it. You've got the skills to take this to the next level." The project was massive, negotiating a merger with a foreign tech company that would change the landscape of the industry. The stakes were high, the pressure immense, but Amanda didn't flinch. She took the file, her fingers brushing the crisp edges of the paper, and for the first time, she felt a sense of purpose that went beyond just getting by. She worked tirelessly over the next few weeks, pulling in experts, strategizing every detail, and doing what she did best, connecting with people. She wasn't just pushing numbers and figures, she was building relationships, fostering trust. The deal wasn't just about profit, it was about people, about creating something that would benefit both sides. Amanda knew what it was like to be underestimated, to be treated like you didn't matter. Now, she was using her position to ensure that the people involved in this merger weren't treated that way. The day the deal was finalized, Amanda stood in Richard's office, the glow of success radiating from her. Richard, for once, didn't have a sarcastic comment or a cold nod. Instead, he simply looked at her, his usual stern expression softening, and nodded approvingly. "You did good, Amanda," he said, his voice genuine. It was a rare moment of praise, one that Amanda had longed for when she first joined the company. But now, standing in that moment of triumph, it felt different. She wasn't doing this for Richard's approval or anyone else's. She was doing it for herself. As she left the office that day, Amanda walked with her head held high. The streets of New York didn't feel so overwhelming anymore. The city, once a place where she had struggled to find her place, now felt like a canvas, a place where she could paint her own future. Her success wasn't just a reflection of her hard work, it was proof that, even in a world that often overlooked people like her, kindness, perseverance, and staying true to oneself could lead to incredible things. She had proven that to herself and to everyone around her. Amanda had made it, not just in business, but in life. And she wasn't done yet. Amanda's journey was one of self-discovery and resilience. She had started with nothing but a kind heart and a deep sense of responsibility for those around her. But through grit, determination, and a refusal to let circumstances define her, she carved out a place in a world that often overlooked people like her. Her story teaches us that success is not just about what you know or who you know, it's about how you treat others, how you rise above adversity, and how you stand firm in your beliefs. Amanda could have let the pressures of her past hold her back, but instead, she used them as fuel to propel herself forward. Her kindness wasn't a weakness, it was a strength. And in the end, it led to more than just career success, it brought her personal fulfillment and peace of mind. Amanda's story proves that kindness, integrity, and perseverance can transform not only your own life but the lives of others around you. Never underestimate the power of staying true to who you are and treating others with dignity, even when the world doesn't seem to recognize it. Amanda's story is a powerful reminder that opportunities can come from unexpected places. Even in the most challenging situations, we have the power to create change by staying true to our values. By leading with kindness, we build strong, meaningful relationships that can open doors to new opportunities. In real life, we may face adversity in our careers, finances, or personal lives, but just like Amanda, we can overcome those obstacles by focusing on our strengths, seeking out opportunities, and always acting with integrity. Embrace the challenges, stay persistent, and never let go of your belief in yourself. Every setback is just an opportunity to learn and grow.